that the addressable market is so much bigger than what we are currently looking at. And this is going to be one of those similar journeys and transformations that started with the combustion engine and the entire automobile industry and transportation industry. Just like that, AI is going to.
Welcome to the Stantec.io podcast, where we speak to our scientists, designers, engineers, and architects who are combining subject matter expertise with cutting-edge technology to develop solutions that can solve the problems of today and tomorrow. My name is Dave Roberts.
And I'm Mike Arsenault. This episode is all about AI. Artificial intelligence is everywhere, and depending on who you ask, the technology will lead the largest transformative change in human history, be a harbinger for the end of human existence, is much ado about nothing, or somewhere in between. But we want to know, how will it impact industry? Joining us to discuss is Stantec's Director of Artificial Intelligence, Lalitha Krishnamoorthy.
Lalitha joined Stantec earlier this year after a multi-decade career at IBM. Welcome to the podcast, Lalitha.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we're going to do something a little bit different with this episode. We've asked a number of our innovation and technology leaders to give us some AI-related questions they've received directly from some of our clients. And who better than Lalitha to answer them? Are you ready for this, Lalitha?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, so first question. What are some business areas where AI is known to add bottom line value to an organization?
So I want to take us a little bit back. If you think about cloud, let's just think about public cloud. About 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? The same craziness. Everybody was incredibly excited about public cloud. They still are today. I'm not saying that fever is gone. But when it got really difficult, the answer became hybrid cloud, because people said, well, I can't put my data in public cloud. I need a private environment. And then it transformed to hybrid cloud. That became the easy way to marry your private cloud and your public cloud. Now let's talk about AI. There's a lot of excitement around AI, as there should be. But the number one thing clients raise is, well, I do have a little bit of a data problem. My data is in a lot of different places. This is why AI actually requires an hybrid architecture, because your data is going to be in many different places. So what are some of the solutions and areas where we're starting to see AI actually bring value to the clients? Is number one, automation. So let's just think about what happens when we get to automation. Most tasks start off, in majority of clients that talk to me, they start off very manual. And then the company decides, well, I can't possibly continue to scale unless I find a way to do this better. But what is the case? What is the problem that we're solving is the number one thing that customers need to think about. I'll give you a data point here. 82% of enterprise IT leaders have told me that complexity is impeding their success. They say they can't move as fast as they want to. But if you take it a further step, here's another data point. 55% of industry leaders, clients, have said they do not have an understanding of where they're actually spending dollars today, let alone labor that goes along with these technology dollars. So the number one area where we've seen AI have the maximum impact in the industry, across all industries, right? I'm not specific to AEC. I'm talking fintech, health tech, ed tech, etc., is automation, where they know that by actually investing in automation, how they run their technology, how they run their operations, what is the dimension of AI, which has now become a common ingredient for automation, is how I'm seeing the most amount of return on investment for our clients.
So how long do you think it will be before AI is seen as a mainstream tool set that supports our work and productivity on a daily basis?
So we are actually just starting, in this journey of seeing AI being implemented in real life use cases, mostly because of the incoming of generative AI agents. We are actually seeing, a much faster implementation and adoption of AI technology. Now, one example again, to think about where we will be and how much of this and how long it will take. I'll give you a simple example. This is something that came about, and someone from my AI ML industry circle shared with me, which stuck with me. Just think about this. When the first combustion engine was invented, okay, we're going hundreds of years ago, right? And then what were all the adaptations from that combustion engine? it became automobiles, it became construction equipment, even to the modern day F1, Formula One. All of this started by what? It started by that simple spark, which was the combustion engine. Now, this is Lalitha's opinion. I think AI is that spark for the entire world around adoption and automation today. So I know that there are some classic cars that run on manual transmission, but let's be honest, once automatic transmission came in, it changed who could drive and where in the world you could drive and how. So I think this AI journey is going to be exactly like that. It is that spark that has started. Generative AI is just one flavor of that spark. But if you go and talk to the AI ML experts in the field, they will tell you that the addressable market is so much bigger than what we are currently looking at. And this is going to be one of those similar journeys and transformations that started with the combustion engine and the entire automobile industry and transportation industry. Just like that, AI is going to. So my prediction to your question is this is going to take real shape in the next 3 to 5 years.
Wow, that is quite a powerful statement. Let's move on to our next client question, which is somewhat related to our previous question. So Lalitha, what is Stantec's approach to using AI tools and services, and how do we ensure we're using the right AI tools to support our work?
So adoption of AI, like I said, we're just scratching the surface here as to what AI means to each of our individual industries and use cases. Now, there are certain industries that have matured faster. They have adopted emerging technologies sooner in the areas and the realms of automation, predictive maintenance, predictive analytics, forecasting, some of those ones which were basically advanced analytics with the flavor of AI topped off. So I will give you examples where we've seen AI adoption in your airline industry, for example. When was the last time that you actually had a flight delayed or canceled and you had to go and stand at the flight, check-in counter? It's probably been more than 2 to 3 years. Because today everything is so automated through AI. And the moment they know that there is a flight that's been canceled or delayed, the automatic operations behind it, the machine learning ops called ML ops or AI ops, takes over, changes, reroutes, rebooks, and notifies you and keeps monitoring and keeping you updated on what's been happening. So these industries that actually got on this path of advanced analytics, it wasn't called AI journeys about, even 5 years ago, from what I recall, but they started getting on the journey where they have completely transformed their business into digital and AI-driven decision-making. So there are some industries that are ahead in the sense that they have implemented these for those specific areas around automation, operational efficiency, around predictive, right? And what at Stantec, where we are, and also I can generally speak for the AEC industry as I've looked at our competition, is that we are now figuring out how do we do adaptive design? How do we build infrastructure, buildings, water systems, environment services, energy resource systems for the future? Because adaptive design is what the world is asking for. And so as we think internally, as I am processing what our needs are and what do we need in terms of policies and guidelines as emerging technology of AI is coming in, is how reliable are these AI virtual assistants that can help our architects and designers by providing them actual specific examples from projects that we have won before, projects that we have designed before from our repository and inventory of previous designs to help them quickly accelerate some of their work. So at Stantec, what we're doing is looking at AI from multiple angles. One thing is around setting up an AI playground, if you will. This is a place, a safe environment, meaning software-wise, and providing all the technology tools and AI software that has been tested and safe, So our organization can do rapid prototyping on MVPs, MDPs, and quickly deliver value to clients and have an environment where we can safely develop these. The second thing we're doing is providing more tools that are coming into the market for AI development in the hands of our teams and development teams. So they actually understand the capabilities of these tools that are coming in, and they know in what use cases we can apply them, and in a very secure environment. So we're actually not compromising on any kind of PI data or client data or any security vulnerabilities. So to your question about what are some things we're doing, those are ways by which we are starting to speed in Stantec's AI adoption across the company and build a culture of innovation, because that appetite for innovation will push us towards adopting newer technologies faster and figure out how we deliver client value quicker.
Another great question that we've received is the risk associated with using AI large language models that have been trained using publicly available data. What guidance would you give on how we should look to protect ourselves in such circumstances?
Yeah, so LLMs, as they're known as large language models, and now the newest thing is having small language models. So we're actually starting to see different levels of these models coming in. Some come in pre-trained by the vendor, and some of them, as part of AI, responsible AI and ethical AI standards that are now set by our policymakers across industries and even for individual states within the United States, there's going to be guidelines on what is ethical AI and what is responsible AI. So even a small vendor company that says they have a ready to use LLM is now required by law in some states to declare what data was used to train that model. So when you talk about public data that was used to train the model, it does not mean that anything that you see on YouTube you can use to train your model and sell that as a pre-trained LLM to a company to use. So there are risks that come with the models that you adopt. And I have seen majority of large companies, even SMBs, invest in taking an out-of-the-box LLM from some of the companies that create these LLMs, but they're leaning towards training them using their own data. If that is data that they have for their own employees and for their own company, or clients that they work with who have consented to allow them to use the data to train the model. So in a world where we're going into so many companies now saying we have a ready to use LLM model you can use, I think the first question is anyone in AI, ML, and worried about data privacy and data standards and a big advocate for explainable AI, I would say the question you should ask is, even if it is publicly trained data, what was that public data that was used to train the model before you would pop that in-house? Because it brings with it a lot of risks. And if you're not looking for what you should be, or you don't know what you should be looking for, you could end up corrupting your entire technology stack within your company and delivering products that might be carrying bias and not following ethical standards. So there has to be a lot of caution. And remember, I talked about AI policy before. Those are some things that you would want to set up for your client or for your own company, depending upon, how much risk you are willing to take on.
Thanks, Lalitha. We're actually going to stay in the legal realm for our next client question. What is the legal risk of relying on AI results when they may not be correct, and how can that risk potential be addressed?
So that's a really good question, because today there are no standard way by which you are able to measure you can measure an accuracy of an ML model, but what we are challenged with is that the right answer. And when it comes to smaller projects around prompt engineering, where you're asking for the model to summarize something for you, whether that you're using ChatGPT or you use Copilot or you're using some LLM model that's off the shelf, the ability for us to actually check and make sure that the result that is returning is accurate and consumable, and more important, safe for us to share with our clients or downstream is extremely important. And this is where there is a lot of emphasis and focus across the industry on being able to explain your explainable AI, where you're able to explain how you arrived at this recommendation or this prediction or this response. And if your model is not able to do that, and you have not designed it in a way that it actually incorporates some of those principles, then I would question how you arrived at that, because at this such a fast-paced industry that we are in, where business leaders and executive leaders are struggling with how many data points they have to make a data-driven decision. And let's be clear, the reason why clients are telling me they want to implement AI is not because it's cool and shiny. It's expensive, okay? The reason they want to do this is because they want to be more efficient. It's for operational efficiency. It is to drive competitive advantage. It is to drive faster growth revenue, right? And in order to accomplish those things, what they need is data-driven insights. What they're asking is, I want these models not to tell me how you work the model, but for the model to tell me what I'm supposed to be doing and worried about for the next quarter or the quarter after the quarter. So what they want is, and willing to pay for, is insights. And if you can back why you're telling me to take a certain action based on data and the analytics and the ML models, then I don't know how to make that decision or why you're recommending that. So the world I envision is that insights is going to drive, and the value of those insights and the ability to augment decision makers to make those decisions faster is going to be the trend, with AI ML leading us in that direction. And how you came up with that insight has to be explainable by your AI ML team as to how they arrived at that. And if there is any concerns around the data that was used, whether you use it for training or this was your ETL data ingestion that happened from data spread across multiple sources, that needs to be addressed. So fundamentally, your data strategy and information architecture will underpin anything that you do on AI ML to drive that value.
So Lalitha, in the complex and evolving world of artificial intelligence, what is the best advice you'd give to someone wanting to start their journey into AI?
I would say make sure you have a trusted source for where you get your information. There's definitely a lot of hype around AI, but there is reality as well. I gave you an example of airlines. I've given you examples of cancer research where there are AI models that are augmenting the intelligence of oncologists to help them make the right treatment choices and plans for a patient, depending upon the severity of cancer they have, the stage of cancer they have, their MRI results, their test results, their pathological results, everything. And also these physicians are having, these oncologists, they're having to keep on top of the latest FDA recalls of drugs, drug interactions, and research papers that are coming up with new and advanced techniques for solving these diseases. So just think about that example I just painted. How can a human physician have the brain capability to process all of that and multiply that by X number of patients with the increasing growth of cancer around the world? How will they do this manually? So clearly, there is an AI use case here. And for anybody that is starting on their AI transformation journey, and I'm calling this journey by design, because this is not a quick, let me just go build up, one app and throw it on App Store. this is actually going to be a journey. It's going to take a couple of years before you will see the value of what you have invested in, is to first get educated. Surround yourself with people who actually play in that field day in and day out, not people who are dabbled with something here and there. So get your resources right. And the second thing would be identify, what is the business problem that's been lingering around for a long time? And is there an AI solution for that? I mentioned automation, I mentioned predictives, right? So there are certain areas where AI has already proven its relevance and value, and you don't have to go back and recreate the wheel. You just need to know how you get started with those solutions that have matured to the point that you can safely use them. So I would say two things. If you're just getting started, educate yourself, make sure that you are getting your sources right. Second, if you're picking a vendor to work with, there are over 860 startups that started in the last 18 months. These are people that I'm telling you that I personally know, the founders, 800 some startups that started all over US, North America only, I'm talking, in the space of Gen AI, that have come and shown me their latest product, their ideation that they're building, to get ideas on, am I building something that's going to be the next Meta? So what I would say is, if you're investing in these from the sense of adopting the technology into your company to solve your use case problem, make sure you do due diligence, because you want to make sure that when you bring a product into your environment and you want to use it, that product is going to be there for the long run. There is support and maintenance and safety of those vendors and products. So do your research, make sure you consult. There's a lot of people there and help available to you, AI industry experts that can guide you along the journey and help you as you transform.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you for taking the time to explore the fascinating topic of AI with us today, Lalitha. I'm sure the audience will have found this episode to be both insightful and also thought-provoking. And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. So keep engaging, keep questioning, keep exploring how AI can transform your organizations and communities. Lalitha, thank you once again for being part of the Stantec.io podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, both of you, for having me today.
And thank you for listening. Future episodes will continue to explore how digital technology is shaping our world. In the meantime, you can also visit our website at www.stantec.io for more information.